Hello, and a very warm welcome to you. My name's Lance Nelson, and today, once again, I am with Clive Leviev-Sawyer of the Sofia Globe. How are you doing, Clive?
Another glorious spring day. Would be nice to go to the park, wouldn't it?
It would, which is going to be one of our topics we're going to cover today, whether you should go to the park, and which we won't give anything away quite yet. And I just really want to thank Clive for an incredible week on the Sofia Globe, and of course, any shout-outs to your new Patreon members you'd like to give?
A wonderful group of people. Nice to see the numbers are growing. We need all the support we can get. Just a small amount of money to get involved in that, and that's why it's called crowdfunding.
Great. Well,
very big crowd.
Yep, great crowd, and also Clive's latest piece to Patreon-only subscribers was very interesting, very thoughtful, very good, and as always, excellent writing. So enough puffing you up, and now onto the agenda we've got today. So we mentioned parks. We're going into some of the trends in the figures that are going on. We're going on to some of the fines going around on those travel declarations. That's an interesting story. And finally, but certainly not least, a topic that I know many of you have been talking about, certainly with my circle of friends, is the deaths and how they are counted and the different methods and mortality numbers. We're all a bit perplexed here in Bulgaria, aren't we? So we'll come on to that at the end. Clive is the man with the numbers, and we'll go through those, but let's talk about parks. And it's something to do with walking around in a certain direction. What's the announcement on parks, Clive?
Well, you can imagine all the frustration, because the weather's getting so much better, people want to go to the parks. And there's something going on with parks in Sofia tomorrow, an experiment, also a field test, which at first seemed like a partial reopening, letting people go back into the parks, at least mothers and children. But the field test is going to be involving volunteers, municipal staff, and what they're talking about is One Direction. Now, some people I'm sure associate with the name of a fairly well-known band. But the idea appears to be that you'd be allowed into the park, perhaps only mothers and children, but you'd have to go in one opposing streams of traffic. It's not some kind of David Lean film. Now, this is slightly amusing, this concept, because we have to wait and see how it's going to work. They did One Direction with markets, fruit and veg markets, which is relatively simple, to keep people from crowding. You all go in at one end, you keep your distancing, then you go out the other end. But between a flower market and a public park, fairly substantial difference in size. Maybe they're going to have some kind of, oval circuit. I don't know. As soon as we do know, we'll report it about what One Direction actually means.
One Direction in a park. And we didn't understand because when I heard that, I thought, well, you're allowed to go through the park, but how do you get back? To me, that means One Direction, as well as that boy band, of course. Okay, let's see what happens on that.
Maybe like the Goons. You remember the Goons from the 1950s that be walking backwards to Christmas?
Yes, that's right. Okay, less of the Goons and more of what Borisov said this morning, and the trends in the figures. They're quite low, aren't they? Should we just give a quick recap on the actual numbers here in Bulgaria to do with the virus?
I have them right here. As of this morning, we have confirmed cases, 1,234. People in hospital, 285. In intensive care, 41 deaths, 54. And those who have recovered, 197. Now, the day before yesterday, there was a very sharp rise in 24-hour period of the biggest rise Bulgaria has seen so far. It was about 90 people. But now, in turn, in the past 24 hours to this morning, Saturday morning, it's a rise of about 63. So what the Prime Minister was saying is that if this relatively low trend continues, he would actually like to end the state of emergency earlier than May 13th, but maybe just have a law keeping some of the measures in place, like wearing masks in public and a few other things. It's not very clear. I suppose we'd have to have a formal decision. But sure he and everybody else exactly, just talking about parks, understands the frustration with the restrictions.
A lot of frustrations. We spoke in a previous podcast, 2 back, about business and small business and the devastation there. Trying to put a little bit of a positive spin on it, to use this time to be creative, to think of ways that actually you can work with other people, come up with new ideas, and try and come out of this, I'm not going to say stronger, but at least surviving, because we do believe, word on the street I hear is that maybe 25% of small business, SMEs, and now that's most of Bulgarian businesses, just to be clear, if you're watching this elsewhere, we don't really have very big businesses here. Most businesses employ less than 200-300 people. So these are small, medium-sized enterprises. And yes, we have the Hewlett-Packards of the world, but the vast majority of the people work for very small businesses, under 200 employees, and many, thousands, tens of thousands of businesses of 1 or 2 people. So this is a huge impact when the economy actually goes to pretty much zero right now. So we're watching this very, very closely. I know people are super keen to get back to work and see, try and reduce the depth of the recession that seems to be forecast. So what do you think, Clive? Do you think they will end it early? Will they allow businesses to start going back? And if so, if you're running a restaurant, what will the rules be? Will there be a maximum of 6 people on a table, for example? Will the servers have to wear masks? There's going to be a few things, I think, possibly.
You have to bear in mind what's happened already during the time of the state of emergency. You've mentioned masks. There was the time that masks became compulsory, then there was a grace period, then they weren't compulsory, now they're compulsory again, and now the period for which they're compulsory has just been extended till the same May the 13th. So there's been a degree of chopping and changing. With the intercity travel restrictions, there have been changes to the rules over time. There have been various things about which rules have changed. So I'm quite sure that, whatever new regulations come out, they will keep us busy reporting them. Those in turn will change. May the 13th, if that is the date, I'm sure won't necessarily bring an end to all the measures. No. They may keep some of them in place. And you've just mentioned restaurants. Yes, perhaps that's what they'll do, is say, all right, you can have a few people in, but physical distancing and all the rest of it, and disinfection, everything else. But they might change and change again. Okay, so I'm sure they're keen to get places open so they get some tax revenue in. And talking of tax, let's talk about fines, something that seems to be getting quite efficient here in Bulgaria. Let's talk about these travel declarations that perhaps many people, that you filled out those manually, and I guess many people thought, well, they're never going to be looked at those again. But some bright spark realised there could be an opportunity here to pull in some cash. What are they doing now, Clive? I'm sure perhaps the unhappiest officials in Bulgaria at the moment must be the people who have to go through all of those declarations and phone employers and check, people who say they're traveling for work, about whether they really were. But perhaps they have a degree of schadenfreude at the fact that fines are being handed out. We have 1,100 pre-trial proceedings at the moment for people telling porkies on their declarations. We know that a couple of those people, again, it was close to 800 if I recall the figure without looking up, said that they were traveling for work and they registered as unemployed. Now, bear in mind that the fines are minimum 100 to 300 level, that's 50 to about 150 euro. And multiply that by thousands and thousands. Certainly have some money coming into the state coffers at the moment. Certainly needs it.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't try it on, because you're going to be caught. They're checking every last declaration.
Yeah. So be careful out there. I even had someone who owns a hotel tell me they had a call from the hotel inspectorate wanting to come round and inspect a closed hotel. So,
What, to inspect that they were closed?
No, to inspect the hotel. Interesting one. So finally, and I think very importantly, there's some confusion about what counts as a death here in Bulgaria versus, let's say, the UK. What's the difference here? How do they count them in Bulgaria, death? I think you mentioned we've had 54 people die. And what counts as a COVID-19 death?
Okay. There are basically two different ways that it's been done around the world, different countries taking different approaches. And let's just, for the moment, stick to those countries that would have some kind of commitment to actually telling the truth. Now, the UK is counting deaths only if the person was diagnosed with COVID-19 and nothing else. Bulgaria is among the countries that counts a death in, even if the person had something else wrong with him or her. If they had leukemia, cancer, old age, COPD, whatever. If the person had tested positive at some point, then the death gets counted in. Now, we've heard the details of practically all the deaths. There may have been one or two that haven't been mentioned. So I mentioned the figure just now, 54 deaths in Bulgaria. Of that, basically about 2 are of people who had COVID-19 and nothing else. So if you apply the UK method to Bulgaria, you'd actually come up with a death toll of 2.
So that's 2 for a population of 5.5 million-ish?
6.9 million.
Officially, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite a few people have come back, so it probably is getting closer to the official number. I think there's quite a thought of not everybody's in the country at the same time. I guess that's true everywhere. But okay, so 6.9 people, 2 deaths. UK, 65, maybe 70 million people now. There's been over 20,000, something like that. There's quite a can't do the maths immediately, but there's a big difference in percentage of deaths. So 2 out of 6.9 million people, and 25% unemployed.
Jumping lines as well in terms of trying to establish the accuracy of all of these things.
Yes, that's right.
Just talking about Bulgaria, about the world in general. It is also possible that people die of old age, or they die in remote places. They may have been positive. They've simply never been tested, and they might not be autopsied because some countries have laws requiring mandatory autopsies if you die below a certain age. But if you die over, if in your 80s and you die, very few people are going to suspect it was anything except old age or the customary kind of cardiovascular failure that would happen at that time. So there may have been a couple that have been missed. Bulgaria would have certainty about anybody who died in a hospital, one of the designated hospitals in a city. If someone in some remote clinic somewhere, or some not even a clinic at home dies, that one might be missed. Okay, so in most countries, it seems, from what I've seen, is that irrespective of how you died, whether COVID or anything, the number of deaths has gone up over the last few months, quite substantially. We just don't know in Bulgaria because normally they're collected a year later, the statistics. So the municipalities gather up the stats and then they're all collated at the end of the year. So we only have numbers for last year, not for March and April so far this year. So that's interesting. I think that would be helpful. Good. I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. We're out of time. I think there's a lot going on. Watch out for Sofia Globe tomorrow on some very interesting announcements on a particular event that happened 34 years ago. Some of you will guess that. If you know what that event was, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think about the lockdown and some of these statistics. We're interested in hearing from you. If you like the content on Sofia Globe, be sure, please, to check it out, like, share, subscribe, and also become a patron. If you're interested in e-commerce, apps, websites, go to appfactory.bg, and our regular video watchers for Bansko, of course, you know me from there, and we'll be doing some odd things about what's happening in Bansko. So that's all from us. Thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sunshine wherever you are, and we'll see you soon. And bye for now, Clive. And to you.